Welcome to our program devoted to changing the conversation about our generation, millennials. I'm Grace, a student from the University of Houston downtown, and my co-host, Alec. And we're going to go ahead and talk about some major topics about the National Millennial community and see how we can get the conversation started.
So our topic today is a pretty interesting one regarding advice that the millennial generation would have for professors, which can be an interesting topic because it can go in a multitude of different ways. My name is Alec Iacobelli. Again, to reiterate, I just recently graduated from Western Connecticut State University, and I am now working in marketing and advertising in New York City. So I figured we could go around the panel and introduce our guests, starting with Dr. Yuki.
Okay. My name is Dr. Yuki, a professor of Gunma University in Japan near Tokyo. I teach sociology and project management.
My name is Ryan Avalis. I'm from the University of Houston downtown, where I study a major of marketing with a minor of economics.
Okay. My name is Yoonwon Kim. I go by Yoon. I go to school in North Carolina. I'm currently attending University of North Carolina at Greensboro, major in international business, and I'm a junior.
Hi, my name is Lauren Alverman. I'm from Philly. I'm currently going to University of Delaware. I'm a junior, and I'm studying marketing and economics.
Alec, if I may, to the topic of advice for professors, I kind of want to put a disclaimer out there just for maybe all of our sakes, or at least mine. I've had a wealth of education from many, many professors. Some of the things that we outline here today will not necessarily be for all professors, nor should they be considered any negative or high-level criticism of excellent people that I've had teaching me and been fortunate enough to teach me. So with that said, I would like some of you to take this with a grain of salt, but also know that we really are just genuinely interested in improving the way in which we engage with our professors and what we can do better as students too.
Right. Thank you, Ryan, for that disclaimer. I think it's really important because we don't want to discredit the work that some great professors have done for us in the past.
Absolutely.
We really do value the education that they've given us. And we've recognized some pain points that exist from other professors. So that's kind of what the conversation we're going to have today will revolve around. So that being said, let's dive right into it. Really top level. What is some advice you guys would give to your professors, whether in the past or now or whenever?
Okay, I would like to start. So it's Yoon speaking. So I would like the professors to teach us, not what to think, more why to think, because right now I'm taking a business statistics class and I had to argue with the professor when we were when he was teaching us about the ratio data, and one of the example was income. Ratio data is there is a true zero, so if you have zero income, then that means it's not meaningful. But in my opinion, if someone's volunteering and then, giving out services, I still think that's meaningful work. So, like by putting those questions in, multiple choice, if we, pick that as a different answer, if we, come up with different ideas, then that means wrong. But I would like the professor to give us a little bit more room and let us discuss like how we really think. Then we can have some meaningful discussion instead of like we listening to professor. Yeah,
and to echo that, this is Alec again. I think your point is really valid. I think it's true that we really need to know the purpose of why we're learning a certain topic, not
or
just
at least let me know why I'm wrong.
Yeah, not just the what, but the why. And I think that's going to help us really learn on a deeper level and really understand and apply these to real world situations.
If I may, this is Ryan. To piggyback on what I hear in your points too, I would have loved, and I'm still benefiting from, real world examples. Many of the professors I have now have had real world application or are still in their industries respectively. And when they provide real world examples to the things they're teaching in class, whatever was theory becomes manifest. It's tangible. I can actually go, oh, here I am in the grocery store. I remember when they were talking about X moment, and it's a lot more relatable, and it becomes I embed that knowledge better and learn more from it as a result. So real world examples, always above and beyond fantastic. Anything to make things more tangible.
Right. And I think there's something to be said about professors keeping up with trends and staying modern in their own industries. For example, marketing. I mean, tomorrow the marketing industry will change because technology is just rapidly evolving. So professors really need to stay abreast of that and translate that in their lessons.
I mean, just to throw a curveball in there, I guess my advice for professors would be, this is Lauren, start the conversation, and I was talking to a few of our guests beforehand, and a lot of us have different experiences, but in my experience at the University of Delaware, as my classes have gotten more difficult and higher level, the work has really become less hands-on and more lecture-based. So sitting for an hour listening to a professor lecture, I mean, I don't doubt that you know more than me about this topic, and I know you're an expert, and I want to learn and soak all that information in, but, there's a discussion-based element that I think is missing, and when you don't get to talk to someone about what they're teaching, I think there's something lost there. So I think there's a responsibility on the professor to at least start the conversation, and then the responsibility then lies on the student to ask meaningful questions and engage their professor in a smart way.
So, Dr. Yuki, we spoke previously about your experiences in Japan and how they're similar and how they're a little different from the way we are educated here. I don't know if you had any comments relating to the points that Lauren was just making.
Okay, I was a student in the United States. I was an undergraduate student in the University of Illinois, and I teach in a Japanese university as a professor. And the teaching style right now in Japan is like American style, but more interactive. And I think that interactive teaching is very important because the quality of the university lecture is not to teach a theory without changing the way to teach or explain, but the theory is to interpret the society and use it for your society. Just you said application is very important. So if telling that story to the next generation, just like you, that the millennials, first of all, we professors is a different generation, need to communicate with the way of thinking that millennials, your generation ideas, and make it easier to understand. That's what I believe. And second, it is next generation that has the possibility to add the new knowledge to the theory. And it is necessary to train the theory that they themselves can verify themselves and make changes. That's what I believe.
I think we all agree with that.
I've got my hands up.
I wish all
in
professors thought like
agreement.
that.
All right, and my name is Grace, and I completely agree with that. I think it's important for the professor to engage with the student and for the student to engage with the professor. And the classes that I remember are classes in which the professors were passionate and they used real life case studies in order to explain that theory. However, I will say that I'm willing enough to say that this radical statement that you can have a professor that's really engaging. You can have a professor that has all the right tools. You can have a professor that you come out of that classroom knowing how to explain a topic to someone and maybe knowing how to use it in real life. And you come out of school with straight A's, 4.0, with all this amazing knowledge and real life case studies that they've given you or the experiences that the professors have told you, but it's not going to get you a job. It's my question is, how is it going to differentiate you from other similar applicants that are vying for the same job you are? Because you can have a 4.0 in economics with great professors. You can come from Yale and Stanford and still not be able to graduate. I went to University of Houston downtown, and it took me a long time to finally finish, but I finally graduated in December. And I have a degree in interdisciplinary science. But I work at the top technology company in Houston, and it's not because my major was in economics. It was a very general degree. So it has more to do with experience, and what matters, what you learn in the classroom is important. But I'll be, bold enough to say that it just sometimes what you learn in the classroom is different than what you actually do when you graduate.
Yeah, I agree. I really think it's very important to keep in mind that you could graduate with the 4.0. But Joe Schmo down the street could also graduate with that 4.0 in the same program. So the student, it's on the student, not so much the professor, to really diversify your own skills and create your own value proposition.
I think
entering
the professor
the
can
workforce.
help, but it's not the complete responsibility of, the
course.
professor. And I think schools too should be more helpful and not just give you an advisor, a counselor, your last semester of school.
Yeah, I think the professor can provide the platform for the student to access, any help or an advisement that they would need to succeed.
Both Professor Yuki Yu as well as Lauren, I remember we were speaking last night, and there was such a need to recognize that not all of the onus of this falls on the professor. It's up to the student to engage, but also we're talking about some things which are institutionally based and culturally based that may not be necessarily a professor or student specific problem. It's their opportunity to be able to bridge that gap. If I remember hearing you both right, would either of you add to that?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with the fact that I think we all agree that the responsibility is mainly on the student, majority on the student to do the work, understand what the professor's teaching you, and get real life experience before graduating. But I think that, and maybe this is me just being an idealist, but I would really hope that, especially I think a lot of us are in the business department at our schools or graduated from that. I would hope that the professors in those departments want to see you succeed and want to help you in, your when you get a job outside of college. And so whether that be helping you network or looking at your resume. And I know that is a role for the career service centers, but they're sort of overrun with other majors. So especially with the business department, I wish that more professors like my mentor, Steve Ng at the University of Delaware, would reach out with their connections and help if you're willing to put in the work and the effort as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Several of my business classes, one of the assignment was to send over your resume, and that was it. You sent over your resume, you got the full points. No one critiqued it. No one said you should add this, you should add that. I actually worked with someone who's a project manager for Toyota, and she helped me with my resume, and it completely she completely took it apart. And there was so much I didn't know, and then so much that she taught me. That this could be a class itself in college, or if it's an assignment, then critique it. Don't just turn it in. Here's some points.
And a lot of these professors, specifically the business ones, they've worked at high levels in different industries,
and they know what they're looking for.
They know what they're looking for. So I wish maybe wanting to help us, maybe if we're willing to put in the effort.
Yeah. So what I wanted to add on that is because there are grades. Grades shows your work ethic, but if professor would, put them more like not focusing too much on the grading and let them really have a flexibility and let them work on like a project instead of taking a test. Teaching those concepts is important, but those concepts that they're teaching, it's been sometimes it's same, and it's been a decade then they've been teaching the same thing.
Right, I've had the same issue in my university.
Yeah, so I have an entrepreneurial mind, and a lot of entrepreneurs who come into college, then when they're by the time they're graduating, there are only 5% of people who are actually willing to run a business because they are they have a pressure that after graduation they gotta get a job and stuff like that. So what I want to give specifically to the entrepreneurship professor, you can just let them build their own project and do something about it. Just don't grade it based on the theory. Let them just try something and put themselves out there and see what happens. Then then they can give their feedback from their experiences, from their entrepreneurial experience. I think that will be really good for students instead of learning all this concept.
So I guess it kind of sounds like professors sometimes don't let us fail. And not fail a class, but maybe you don't do well on a project, but
yeah, and that's okay. And that's what college is for. And I think college professors should encourage those students to, but encourage not to like fail, but like encourage to try. And then if they fail, then they can, help and just do more things. I mean,
Definitely.
it's going to get better. I mean,
As and I want to piggyback on this too. This is Ryan again. As much as I want to ask for that from my professors, because I do crave that hands-on learning. I do crave the room to be able to make mistakes, and then now I desire a full feedback loop on the things that I did right and wrong and could improve on. That's a lot to ask someone that may already have a huge load in their department in the first place. It's really challenging. If anything, I'm lucky that I went into the field before I went back to school to complete, because a lot of the things that they cover in class now I have real world experience and what that is. I understand where they're coming from now. I don't need to belabor them with this question.
Right.
But if I hadn't had that real world experience or the opportunity to make mistakes, who knows?
Of course. So that being said, I mean, I know we could probably go on for hours talking about this conversation, but what are some key takeaways or some final remarks that you guys would give as advice to professors from the millennial standpoint?
So
Be
maybe-
passionate.
Oh, yeah.
Be passionate.
Maybe not let us fail, but maybe let us stumble.
Oh, that's a good
Let us
one.
stumble and,
Yeah.
and give us feedback. So
Give us
we
the
don't-
opportunity to fail
Yeah.
with the chance for success
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I just want to mention that I think Lauren's idea of like mentoring is so critical. Like with professors or someone you meet, just having a mentor that can kind of, even Bill, who's helped us with National Millennial Committee, like mentors will like steer your life a certain way, and you have to just make sure that that mentor cares about what you're saying.
So that being said, we want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in and listening to our message. We are truly seeking to change the conversation that revolves around the millennial generation, and your support and your feedback will only help us grow and prosper as the generation evolves. If you'd like to learn more about who we are, what we do, why we're talking, why you think our points are valid, please visit nationalmillennialcommunity.com. We would love to continue this conversation with you.